telling you, you're gonna end up a dirty old man.
Combo breaker. Today we have a Blu-ray review and a Video Nasty review in one. That's fantastic. For those of you that didn't see my Island of Death review a little while back, I would like to review all the Video Nasties at some point on this channel because I'm a weird completionist for certain things, and that's apparently one of them. And today's Video Nasty is, of course, The Gates of Hell, aka, and better known as, City of the Living Dead. This is the latest release of this film. Lucio Fulci classic, by the way. If you haven't seen a Fulci movie before, what the fuck's wrong with you? Why are you watching my shit? Go watch a fucking Fulci movie. Fulci's the fucking godfather of gore. He's the Mac Daddy, y'all. Yeah. I don't know what that means.
Sit tight. Everything depends on the autopsy.
Now, this is the third release of this film on Blu-ray. The first one was a Blue Underground disc. The second one was from Arrow Video, and then now we have Scorpion releasing. This is actually my first review of a Scorpion releasing title. This is the first Scorpion releasing title I've actually watched. I owned 3 others. I have their big opera set, which is super tight looking. I just have not delved into it yet. I also own The Church, and I own The Sect, which we'll actually bring back up in a moment. And I'm really excited to get into those now. Oh, and I own The Sleepless Blu-ray now. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's everything. So I'm really excited to eventually get into those. I know that they have some issues here and there. I've read up a little bit, but I'm very intrigued to get into those. But this is their latest release, Gates of Hell, their latest horror release. And I gotta say, hell of a thing. Because Gates of Hell, they open the gates of hell. The 7 gates of hell have been torn open, and in 3 days the dead shall rise and walk the earth. As a reporter, Christopher George from Grizzly, Mortuary, and Pieces, and a psychic, Catriona McCall, House by the Cemetery, The Beyond, race to close the portals of the damned. They encounter a seething nightmare of unspeakable evil. The city is alive with the horrors of the living dead. Yeah, that's basically it. The story is very simple, to the point that it's actually kind of confusing. Basically, you have 2, they're made up of subplots, but 2 main storylines. One is a couple of folks who are trying to close a gateway to hell after a priest kills himself in a cemetery. You know, that old chestnut. And the other one is basically just a tale of small town bigotry, and these sort of exist together. It's a weird film. It's very dream logic-y. It feels very much like an 80s horror novel that just kind of like, and actually I think it's Stephen Thrower that brings this up in, I might be wrong, I think it's Stephen Thrower that brings this up in one of the featurettes, but it feels like one of those books where it's like the 2 characters who have to meet up and eventually face the evil, and then you have all these chapters of various other characters who we've never met before meeting grisly ends.
If you look at novels like The Rats and The Fog, which were written in the mid-70s, and I think probably hit Italy, as well, sold all over the world, I believe.
That's all it really is. Like, story-wise, it's just this very messy Lovecraftian horror film about closing a gateway to hell, and also all the havoc and wobbly-doo that gateway to hell creates.
Your book of, what's it again?
Enoch.
Yeah, Enoch.
Now, I haven't mentioned the zombie factor, and I think the best part of this zombie flick is that it's not actually a zombie flick, even though, you know, if you open this sucker up, and obviously you have this current artwork that was produced for the Blu-ray, but if you actually bring up the OG poster, which this is most well known for having the City of the Living Dead title on it, but I think Gates of Hell is the better title, just between you and me. But it looks like it's a zombie movie, right? That's a zombie movie poster. Why there has to be a fucking zombie in here? And don't worry, there's zombies. Yeah, there's plenty of zombies in this movie. It's just they are on like the last 10 minutes. And actually, I'm gonna go ahead and flip this. And you know, the zombies are not a big part of the plot. There is kind of this ghost zombie chick running around quite a bit, just kind of appearing in front of people and going, "Ugh," and then like taking their fucking brains from the back of their skulls. So that happens, but I wouldn't really call that a standard issue zombie. That's really more of like a specter or a phantom or a ghost. And even the main sort of main villain is this priest apparition thing that also kind of has a physical presence, but also just like disappears and reappears at will. A lot of silliness in that regard. Anyway, point being, it's not really a zombie movie. It just happens to have zombies in it. And fun fact about me, I don't actually like zombies that much. So this is great. This is actually, I haven't watched this movie in over a decade, and it's way better than I remember it being. Like, it's not like the Beyond great, again, by memory. I saw both of those around the same time, so I do need to revisit the Beyond at some point soon. But by my memory, it's like now right under the Beyond, which is a pretty great Fulci flick. You know, I would say they're both probably objectively better than The Devil's Honey, even though I would probably personally rank The Devil's Honey pretty far up there still, because I am who I am. And when the zombies inevitably do show up in the film, they are unmistakably Fulci zombies. You know, they have all the characteristics of that classic zombie flesh eaters style of zombie, but in my opinion, actually a little bit more sleek. Now, you also get fewer of them, but, you know, pros and cons, I guess. Outside of those zombies, you get a ton of like really gnarly special effects that are kind of nicely, not hidden, but placed neatly amongst all of the atmosphere that Fulci goes for. You know, he really takes that Lovecraftian influence and runs with it. He's just like he's stacking atmosphere and stacking and stacking and stacking before he even gets to the first real act of violence. And most of the violence in this movie is some of the best of Fulci's career. It's the kind of stuff that just sticks in your brain forever. And I really, really enjoyed that. You know, this was a guy who was a real filmmaker. And like I've mentioned before, I'm not a big Joe D'Amato fan. And my big problem with Joe D'Amato movies is they really just feel like they're trying to gross me out most of the time. And that's not to say they're all bad. I mean, like even Cannibal Holocaust has a lot going for it as social commentary, but in the end, it still feels like it's just trying to fuck with me. Lucio Fulci never feels like he's trying to fuck with me. It just feels like he doesn't care if I feel like I am being fucked with. And instead, he just wants to make a proper film and, you know, boundaries be damned. Oh, and real quick, I just showed a clip of the famous kind of intestines coming out of the chick's mouth scene, which is an amazing scene. But her boyfriend is played by Michele Soavi, which is totally butchering his name, but still. And he, you might know him probably best as the director of Della Morte, but also the director of The Sect and The Church, also from Scorpion Releasing, and also future reviews that I'm really looking forward to. I've never actually seen The Sect. I've seen The Church. The Church is great. Now, here I'm going to show you a few comparisons. Now, I don't have any of the other transfers available. I don't own the other Blu-rays, but the version streaming on Amazon Prime currently is the Blue Underground transfer. Obviously, it is from a streaming site, so don't consider this like actual quality. As far as I can tell, based on stills I've seen from like Blu-ray.com and stuff, this is a very good transfer. But as you can see, the Blue Underground version, in some places it's brighter, and you might consider that a positive, but I think that, and of course, feel free to disagree with me on this, but I think that based on what you're seeing here, the Scorpion Releasing version is the superior transfer, with one quibble, which I'll get into in a second. I don't have the Arrow version readily available to me, nor is it streaming anywhere that I know of. So here's a few stills compared with stills that I've taken from the Scorpion Releasing release. And so as you can see, the Arrow version, not quite up to the same level of quality, but pretty close. I wouldn't say that any of the transfers are particularly bad. I have seen a lot of criticisms of the Arrow transfer. Again, since I haven't watched it, I can't really verify those. But the Scorpion Releasing version is, by all accounts, probably the best of the three. That being said, I wouldn't say any of them are bad. I think that if you went with any of the three transfers, you'd be in for a winner. But I think, you know, if money is your main concern, there's the Blue Underground version, which you can even buy a 3-pack Blu-ray of this one, House by the Cemetery, and New York Ripper for like $27 on Amazon, which is cheaper than just buying this Blu-ray. So, you know, if cost is more of an problem for you, and you're just basing this on, is the transfer any good? The transfer is good for all of them. So, you know, buy the Blue Underground one. Sure, fuck it. If it's cheaper at that moment, buy it. Fuck it. Now, the big problem, and I'll show it to you right here, especially it's most easily seen in like skin tones and like white surfaces, but this particular transfer, and apparently this was an issue with the Arrow release as well, is there's a lot of color fluctuation. You can kind of see where it kind of goes between almost like a purplish hue to a green. So the tint is changing in a fairly subtle way. Like, I don't think if you're watching this from far away, you'll necessarily notice. But once I noticed, I couldn't stop noticing. It's a color fluctuation that is noticeable, and I'm not sure why it is. The problem is, I thought this might be an issue with the film itself. These are from the negative, so there is a perfectly good chance that there's just something wrong with the film stock. But then the Blue Underground version doesn't seem to have it. So when I was watching that on Amazon, and again, I might just not be seeing it, it might be more subtle. That's, I guess, a possibility, but I looked really hard and I didn't see this fluctuation in the Blue Underground scan. I went to the Blu-ray.com forums. They didn't see it in the Blu-ray scan. Now, admittedly, there was only like a couple messages in the forum discussing this topic, but it seems that the Arrow and the Scorpion releasing are the two with this issue, and Blue Underground does not have it. And I don't have an explanation. I'm sorry. I wanted to. I did have someone ask me to explain this. I don't know. But that being said, I do nonetheless think that this is the better transfer of the film. Whether or not the fluctuation is that big of a deal for you, that's a you thing. Personally, I don't have a problem with it. I do wish I didn't notice it. It is definitely a con. I don't think it is a deal breaker, especially once I get into the extras for this film. Now, it does not have all the extras from the Arrow release, and I would say that just judging by a quick scan of those extra features, I do think the Arrow release probably has a bit more of an edge in this regard, but that's not to count out this release, and a big part of that is a lot of the Arrow extras are ported over to this release. So let's just dig into those real quick. This is going to be a real fast one because I know this video is going a little long, so I'm rambly because I'm a little high right now. And actually, before we even get to those, we do get one new extra. That's the commentary by Troy Howarth and Nathaniel Thompson, both film historians. Troy Howarth has written a lot of really good books, and I'm a fan, including a book on Lucio Fulci, which I haven't read yet, and I'm probably going to go with the Stephen Thrower book eventually. It's just aggressively expensive. Anyway, they provide a great commentary. Usually when I listen to these commentaries, I just kind of skip through them, and I don't listen to all of them just to save time, and I just try to get the general idea of how good the review is, because usually if you jump through randomly, you'll find like the little awkward pauses, and you'll find different bits of information, and you'll be able to hear the sound quality. And I listened to the entire thing because I was enthralled. They're very entertaining without ever trying to be like overly comedic or anything. Very informative, tons of information. Some I knew, some I didn't. So really, really solid new commentary from those guys. We also get, I think, an archival commentary. I'm not sure what it's from, maybe an Italian release. I didn't see it anywhere. I could just be looking past it by accident. That commentary was with director of photography Sergio Salvati and camera operator Roberto Forge Davat, and a camera operator, the camera operator. That guy. Anyway, it's cool to have that little bit of additional information. That is subtitled. They are speaking Italian, so you do have to read the entire commentary. I don't, it depends on if that bothers you. I didn't watch all of it just because there's so much here I already had to watch. But I skipped through a bit, and it seemed pretty informative. I'll definitely check that out at some point. So, cool commentary. As far as the Arrow extras, we get We Are the Apocalypse, an interview with writer Dardano Sacchetti. That's 53 minutes. It talks about Fulci's introduction to Lovecraft, how Fulci worked with the screenwriters, the Italian film industry, differences between Fulci and Argento, stuff like that. Through the Eyes interview with actress Catriona MacColl. That's 37 minutes. She talks about the beginning of her working relationship with Fulci, the famous Buried Alive scene, the maggot scene, Christopher George, animal cruelty, and plenty more about the production. Dust in the Wind is an interview with camera operator with the camera operator. It's 13 minutes, and topics include his career, how they created the smoky wind effect, Fulci's The Black Cat, stuff like that. The Art of Dreaming is an interview with production designer Antonello Gelling? I really should have paid attention when they mention their names in other places, because I'm very bad at Italian names. That one's 45 minutes. Tales of Friendship is an interview with cinematographer Sergio Savati. That's 30 minutes. I Walked with a Zombie is an interview with the actor who played Bob, Giovanni Labardo Radici. That's 22 minutes. They call him Barbadone. is an interview with special effects artist Gino De Rossi. That's 26 minutes, and of course it features the one, the only, the director of Killer Crocodile 2, and a bunch of special effects or something. He talks about his professional relationship with Fulci, the famous worms in Fulci's pipe incident, various effects made for the film, stuff like that. The Horror Family is an interview with father and son actors Venantino and Luca Venantini. It's 19 minutes and features an interesting edit of two separate interviews. The elder of the two sadly passed away back in 2018, so he is unavailable to shoot new footage. The most notable part of this interview is Luca talking about the kind of inexplicable ending of the film from his point of view, and just as confused as the rest of us. Building Fulci's City is a video appreciation by Stephen Thrower. That's 37 minutes, and it's basically just Thrower talking about Fulci. And if you've ever listened to Stephen Thrower before, it's pretty great. Reflections of Fulci is a discussion of Fulci's Gothic period by Ghost Stories actor, writer, and director Andy Nyman. That's 26 minutes and basically just is Andy Nyman reminiscing about discovering Fulci and watching Fulci throughout the years. And it is it's not Stephen Thrower levels of interesting, but it's still very interesting. And it's especially nice to listen to a filmmaker talk about Fulci and Fulci's effect on his work and kind of his view of cinema. The Dead or Alive is a video essay by Kat Ellinger on Fulci and the Italian zombie cycle. That's 25 minutes, and it's a lovely little history of the Italian zombie genre, focused primarily on Fulci's impact and his Gates of Hell trilogy. Jesus. Christ, that's a lot of stuff. That comes out to it's 6 hours. 6 hours of additional content, not including the commentaries or all the trailers and TV and radio spots, also in the disc. Just the featurettes, basically all of them taken from the previous Arrow release. Fucking 6 hours of content. That is insane. And inevitably, it does tread the same ground. I don't know how many different versions of Worms in Fulci's Pipegate I listened to, but there was a lot of them. And the best part of that is how many people dance around naming names in regards to that incident. And often while the editor inserts a clip of a certain actor who shall not be named and who definitely didn't definitely do it, and I guess will remain anonymous while I scamper around his identity and just casually place this unrelated clip into my timeline. Is this the movie? Is this the version of the movie for you? Totally depends on how you feel about what I've said. With all of the cons, this is not the most extras packed of the bunch, but it is still full of extras to the point where you might never want to listen to anything about this movie ever again. If you want more somehow, the Arrow disc is probably the way to go. If you only care about cost, Blue Underground has that awesome triple feature Blu-ray. You can get that. Awesome. Basically spent like $8 for this if you buy that set, so that's pretty cool. But if you want the best picture quality, I think this is it. There are, again, differences. As you saw, there's certain color differences. I definitely think the Blue Underground version in some scenes certainly could look a little bit better than this version, but in many others, it just looks a little dull or a little too green or a little too blue, a little too cool. And this version kind of evens all that out. There are certain moments where I kind of wish it had retained a lot of that more kind of primary color look, but I wouldn't say that's a huge thing. Overall, this is a really good release. I don't think that it is perfect. I think that we'll probably see Blue Underground put out some 4K UHD 3-disc monstrosity with an ugly lenticular cover. That's totally possible, likely even. That might actually be why it's called The Gates of Hell. This might be a licensing thing where they can't legally use City of the Living Dead. I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm pretty happy with this. I don't really need a different version. That said, if I could get this level of scan, but without that fluctuation, that would also be pretty cool. I wouldn't be against that. So, overall, this is a really, really great release with caveats. The packaging, of course, it's kind of standard issue, kind of flimsy slipcover. It definitely looks good as far as the artwork. I do like the artwork. I don't even know which one I prefer. I mean, from a purist standpoint, I do prefer this artwork, but I also do like the new one. I would have preferred maybe one of the more salacious pieces of artwork for the film as an alternate, or even as the front cover, or maybe something. There's definitely better ways this could have looked, but at the end of the day, it's a perfectly high quality release. I really like the presentation. I think the menu looks good. I mean, everything about it is really good. It's just that one color fluctuation issue and the price, which is a little lofty. I think Scorpion releasing their prices are a bit much. And that's that. Thank you for watching. Which Scorpion release should I talk about next? As I said, I have Opera, I have Sleepless, I have The Sect, I have The Church. Which one would you like for me to talk about? Let me know in the comments. And of course, what do you think of Lucio Fulci's The Gates of Hell, aka City of the Living Dead? Also, please, leave me some comments. I like comments. They make me happy, and they help my channel do better. So comment down below, bitches. And of course, if you'd like to help me out on Patreon, I definitely appreciate it, always. If you want to drop $3, you get extra videos and early access to these videos. In fact, there's, if this is before Friday when this video goes out, maybe one of you is a patron giving me money already, and I say thank you. Which reminds me, let's thank some new patrons. So we have 4 new $10 level patrons this month. Tyler Roden Official. I don't know if I'm supposed to just call you Tyler Roden or if it's Tyler Roden Official, but hey man, thanks for being a patron. I like the cut of your jib. I still don't know what that means. Richard Stegman Jr. How you doing? You doing good? You doing good? I like you. I like you. I like you. Eddie Alvarenga. I think that's how you say your name. I'm gonna assume. I'm gonna make a wild assumption and say that I'm right, because I'm an American, a white cis male American, and I like to make assumptions and assume I'm correct. Thanks for being a patron, man. It means a lot right here in my heart place. And finally, our newest patron, he actually pledged today, which I know technically you shouldn't be like shouting these people out before their money goes through, because I know I've had one person get declined, but you know what? That's okay. That's cool. Mike Delaney. Now Mike is a good friend of mine. I've never met him in person because he lives in the shitty part of California, but super cool dude, has an amazing podcast, Splathouse, and I've been a guest before. We talked about my movie The Head, and I love you, man. You're awesome. Thank you so much for showing this support for me. I'm a selfish piece of shit and don't do the same. Oh, and Mike has a movie called Medias Res. It is on Amazon Prime right now. It is a very, 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 very low budget movie, but I had a really good time with it. It has some really great visuals. It's a lot of fun. You get to see Mike acting, which is always great, and you get to see his ability as a writer. And of course, I mean, it's a low budget film. I know it. Some of you know it. That's hard to do. Go send him some support. Watch his movie. Maybe leave some reviews, preferably nice ones. And don't forget to follow me on the Twitters and the Facebooks and all those places. Check out my movies, Fatal Future and The Head, over on Amazon Prime, or in the case of the latter, Vimeo on demand as well. All those links are in the doobly-doo down below. And until next time, go watch a movie.